Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. I want to thank our committee, Sandy Almondson, our office manager for the Chamber of Commerce, and we have Barry Thomason, who's going to be our MC tonight, and Jared Arnold from The Independent, who's put this on. Thank you for coming, and it's good to see such a great turnout. Thanks.
All right, so tonight we're going to have all the candidates speaking to you, and to let you know, the candidates are going to be answering basically the same two questions. Everyone has the same two questions, and they've all been given these questions ahead of time. And so what's going to happen is each candidate will be able to introduce themselves, and then the two questions that they'll be answering are, give us an example of how you contributed to positive change in the community, and how did you go about identifying that need? And then the second question is, what do you see as struggles in, and it would be either county, in the city, the school district, whatever they're representing. What do you see as a struggle, and how can you help in that area? And so we are going to start with the county commissioners, and the first off is going to be Mark Burrows.
Try not to blow this thing up. Thanks, Barry. Just a second, please. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mark Burrows, and I was raised locally in a God-fearing farming and ranching family. In 1968, my parents purchased 740 acres near the intersection of Long Prairie and Deer Creek roads. As we lived there, we fenced the place, we farmed it, we raised cattle and horses, and I really learned a lot growing up that way. As a result of growing up that way, I've learned to really appreciate what it takes to acquire things. In my lifetime, I've worked as a scuba diving instructor. I worked in a veterinary clinic during high school. I was in the United States Air Force for 5 years, where I was stationed in the United States and Europe. I excelled in my career field in the Air Force, and I was awarded the U.S. Air Force Commendation Medal for meritorious service. After I got out of the military, I moved back to Stevens County, which is my home, where I tested for the Chewelah Police Department. And I worked there for approximately 30 years. I worked my way up through the ranks from patrol officer to sergeant to chief of police. In my 5.5 years as chief of police, I always worked towards having a balanced budget, and it was always in the black. I worked there until last November, when I was appointed by the governor's office to be a county commissioner for Stevens County. Since I've been a commissioner, I've worked very hard for you. I have worked well with my seatmates and all the team in the commissioner's office and other county elected officials. I really enjoy being a commissioner, and I wish to continue serving you as county commissioner for District 2 and the entire county. So thank you very much. Do you want me to go ahead and answer the questions too, Barry? Which one was first?
What have you done in the community, and how do you find that?
Okay. Given the nature of my previous job, I need more than 3 minutes to answer this question. So early in my law enforcement career, I observed a lot of damage in our community that was caused by drug and alcohol abuse. So for years, I decided to teach classes in this very building to help kids resist the peer pressure to use drugs. People still mention that they remember those classes and they thank me for doing that. I believe that connecting with young people on a positive level helped many of them break free from the unhealthy lifestyles and say no to drugs and alcohol abuse. As a result, many of these people have lived smarter and healthier lives, and that's a very positive change to contribute to. And still, the drug problem raged on in our country and our county. So when I was promoted to chief of police, I wanted our department to do everything that we could to change that for Chewelah. I worked with this community to start a very successful canine program. Our canine team was dual trained, which meant that they could not only locate illegal drugs, but they could also capture dangerous fugitives. The program was so effective that once it was established, our canine team responded to serve the people of Stevens, Ponderay, Barry, and Spokane counties. During my career, I formed many positive working relationships with people in tribal, state, local, and federal agencies. These connections are of benefit to Stevens County today because they remain. For 30 years, the needs of this community came first in my life. I worked shift work, weekends, holidays, serving others. And during my career, I was regularly called out into the county to assist the sheriff's office and the state patrol to apprehend dangerous fugitives. I've always been a lifelong runner, and I would rather eat donuts than or run and eat donuts. So I chased and captured. Sorry, donuts are pretty heavy on my mind when you're a police officer. So oftentimes I actually single-handedly chased and captured suspects in most parts of Stevens County, from Loon Lake to Hunters to Arden. I've arrested people wanted for murder. I've arrested people that are wanted on all levels of assault, drugs, and fraud, and the list just goes on and on. Lord willing, my efforts have contributed to much positive change in the Chewelah area and in Stevens County and our neighboring counties. I really am so thankful to have got through it all safely and been able to protect so many people from so much criminal activity. I intend to continue the same level of dedication and service to the position of County Commissioner. The three struggles that I see in Stevens County that I'll talk about, and I realize there are a lot of them, but I'm going to just talk about roads and homelessness and predators and what I'm currently doing about that. As we all know, our gravel roads just fall apart in the dry months of summer. They develop rough washboarding and become difficult to travel on. This also causes a lot of damage to all of our vehicles if you live on a dirt road. I drive an old Ford pickup, so I'm constantly screwing the door panels back on it. Anyway, in response to this problem, we've directed Public Works to price out equipment and environmentally safe dust abatement products. And they can be applied to the roads. These products actually bind the road surface together, so they require less maintenance and there's a lot less dust. And this dust is actually your tax dollars blowing away in the wind. Our public works crews can easily apply this material, and that should preserve our investment in our roads and make them safer to travel. On the topic of homelessness, you may have read that in the Commissioner's office, we worked with the Prosecutor's office to provide some aid for people displaced by the Ford Corkscrew fire. I think this is a great use of these funds, that they're set aside for that purpose. Ordinarily, though, when we think of homelessness, we think of people living in cars and makeshift shelters in very unsanitary conditions. Many of these people have mental problems, addiction problems, or both. This is a very complex issue in my mind, and I believe that most people are opposed to using tax dollars to make Stevens County a destination for homeless people. I've talked with people serving the homeless community in churches and other organizations there, and they're already doing great things to help these people. Also, the third struggle that I see and want to talk about is that our county struggles with predators. One type of predator walks on two legs, and they frequently need to go to jail. The problem is that our jail is so small that it's always full. So these predators are free to walk around and steal from you in your neighborhoods. We commissioners are currently working with engineers and the sheriff and folks in the criminal justice community in the county to design a new jail proposal that can greatly increase public safety. And our community is also struggling with predators on four legs. I'm referring specifically to the cougar and the wolf. Their populations right now are so high that they're negatively impacting our economy and the safety of the public. The number of reported predator conflicts more than doubled between 2014 and 2018, and went from 140 some to over 300. Currently, our deer and elk population have been so heavily impacted by predators that now they're often turning to livestock and the domestic animals in more populated areas. I've been working on solutions with commissioners from all across eastern Washington to provide a plan to the Department of Fish and Wildlife to reduce the problems created by these predators. Thank you.
All right, next up is Jeff Pitts.
Good evening. Am I the only one that's a little chilly in here?
Yes. No, you're not alone.
I'm not alone. Cool. Well, good evening. My name is Jeff Pitts. I'm running and hoping to be elected for the office of Stevens County Commissioner. Thank you, sir. And I would like to thank the Chewelah Chamber and the Chewelah Independent for sponsoring tonight's candidate forum. Working together, whether it's working alongside your fellow commissioners, working alongside other county department heads or employees, or working with residents and businesses in the county, they all require that you be willing to listen. Willing to leave your preconceived notions at home, and willing to collaborate to get to an end goal that is favorable for everyone involved. Radical sides at either end of the spectrum gets everyone involved nowhere. This may be why our country has such division and why we all find it hard to come together to get things accomplished. I by no means am saying a group or a person should give up their convictions, their beliefs, or their values. I'll be the first in line defending all those ideals, but we cannot continue to fight and get nowhere. It does we the people and we as a county and a country no good. Stevens County now more than ever needs and deserves a county commissioner that will be a commissioner for all of Stevens County, not just the district they reside in. A commissioner that realizes that every single resident has a voice, and a commissioner that has a vision that not only focuses on short-term issues, but can also look far enough ahead down the road to make sure we go into the next generation set up for success. We need to learn from the past, but we need to learn not to dwell on it. We need to quit the division that fragments and stalemates our county's progress. Egos, personal agendas, and divisively drawn lines have no place in county politics. Leadership is shown through actions. Leadership is what our county needs. We need to work together to solve problems. We need to work together to keep this county moving forward, while at the same time keeping our values and reasons we live and work here at the forefront. Change is going to happen whether we like it or not. As your county commissioner, I will do my utmost to make sure we try and stay out in front of those changes and challenges put before our county. Staying proactive rather than reactive, and making sure those changes and challenges benefit this county rather than hinder it. I was born and raised here. My wife and I raised our family here. I've been fortunate to have ran successful businesses in Stevens County for the last 30 plus years. Stevens County is given to me, and now it's time that I give back to Stevens County. I'm the same person right now as I will be as your county commissioner. My values, my beliefs will never waver. My word is my bond, and working for the residents of Stevens County is my #1 priority. I will work for you and your families. I will work to make our county government efficient, and I will strive to make our county a good place to live, work, and raise your families. I thank you in advance for your support in becoming your next county commissioner. All right, question 1. How have I contributed to positive change in our communities, and how did I go about identifying the need? Giving back and making a difference is something that was instilled into me by my parents at a very young age. I'm proud to say that I practice that notion now more than ever. As I stated in my introduction, Stevens County is given to me, and now I want to give back to Stevens County. But with that said, I'm answering this question by giving you examples of ways I have given back to our county, and in turn, I believe has made a positive difference in not only our county, but in people's lives. Since the mid-1990s, I've been instrumental in bringing forestry back into the classrooms at several of our area schools, getting industry folks, including myself, to come into the classrooms and help teach and give students the tools they can use to go on after high school into a natural resource career if they so choose. I firmly believe that both the students and the teachers have benefited in a positive way from doing this, and in turn, the school districts and the county as a whole. Giving young people the tools to graduate and try to get to a good paying job without the stress and anxiety of thinking that a 4-year degree is the only option is a good thing. Oftentimes, these young people are able to go directly into the workforce, or may only need a 2-year degree to continue on in the natural resource industry or career they choose. For many young people, all they need is another option, another idea to look at, and sometimes we are able to offer that through what we do and have done with the schools in our county. It helps with the local and regional workforce, and it is one little way to help keep unemployment numbers down, lower than they would have possibly been. Another example is the fish hatchery located in Colville. For many years, that hatchery was owned and operated by the state of Washington. About 10 years ago, the state wanted to shut it down, and for a short while after that, the Colville Confederated Tribe stepped in and ran the hatchery, but after a couple of years decided to relinquish that. It was at that time that some forward-thinking people in our county decided that the hatchery served a purpose here, and we stepped in to try to save it. I was proud to have been a part of that original group, and proud to still be on the board of group that oversees some of its operations. It took a while, but working with different school districts in the county and also Stevens County itself, we were able to take that fledgling project into something that not only is producing fish for our area lakes, but also has and is continuing to turn into a 20-acre natural resource and biology class for different students in our county. There are still things that need accomplished, but thanks to being proactive rather than reactive, the hatchery was saved and now has turned into a very positive place for Stevens County, its residents, and school-age children. These are just a couple of examples of things I've done and been involved in, and as you can see in these two examples, they revolve around our youth, which if you think about, can and will affect all of us as we continue down our life path. With that, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to stand up here for a few minutes and speak in front of you, and God bless you all. Thank you.
All right, next up we have our candidates for mayor, and we will hear first from Ashley Ludwig.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here this evening. I'm sure most of you know by now that I'm an accounting and business professional. I have my bachelor's and master's in business administration, and I work a normal W-2 job in the nonprofit sector in addition to running my own business that performs various accounting tasks and business consulting. I'm also a mom to 2 amazing children. My priorities in life are my faith, my family, and servitude to the individuals and causes that I care about. I am deeply submerged in our community in many capacities. Something you may have noticed and a common concern I have heard throughout the community is in reference to my age. The average age of mayors in our nation is 52 years old. Although I may not be close to the national average, I have accomplished far more related tasks both professionally and personally than those that are years ahead of me. You can look all around at current elected officials and see viable proof that even those with over 40 years of experience in an elected office are no longer providing the best policies and principles to produce successful nor effective results. With an ever-changing economy and new needs in our community, our town needs someone who is younger and can come in with fresh ideas and in an innovative way to find solutions. I have both the professional and personal experience to do that successfully. In fact, there are more ways than just my age that I'm not your typical politician. When talking with people of why I want to become mayor, I never ask for their vote because I just want people to be informed about their options and choose who they think would best represent this town. I choose to remain nonpartisan because we have a nation who is torn apart by political parties, and I stand for unity and working together to achieve a common goal. But my overall stance is I above all serve our town citizens through ethical and tailored fit solutions to what our town needs best and don't base my actions on a political party's agenda. Actions speak louder than words, and despite my younger than average age, my actions throughout the community have spoken volumes to prove the length in which I would be willing to go to continue to see our town to thrive. Give us an example of how you have contributed to positive change in the community and how did you go about identifying that need? Being a mother and all about family a few years ago, I saw our town had income barriers and not enough activities for our youth. I assessed this need from seeing the data of median incomes in our area, in addition to talking to fellow parents about how expensive our youth programs had become. Through a collaborative effort with my sister, Christy Smith, Tyson Grubb, and I, we developed a free youth sports program so that all children in our town and in neighboring towns could partake in activities that not only provided a healthy outlet, but encouraged sportsmanship, teamwork, and yielded the best result ever, a child's laughter. In addition, I have served on local school board and city council. Both elected positions have given me the ability to use my experience and education to better our communities. There is so many needs for our community, and it is an ever-evolving process to try to stay on top of. But I have historically and will continually strive to make this town a better place for not only our businesses, individuals, families, but for visitors as well. From the committees, nonprofits, and elected positions I have served, I use face-to-face interactions of those facing the challenges or barriers to best assess the needs in our community. What do I see as struggles in Chewelah and how can I help? There are many struggles for those in Chewelah due to our drastic growth and constant change in demands. However, if I could narrow it down to a few more prioritizing issues, I would say that we are lacking in capitalizing on all the amenities that Chewelah has to offer. I spoke to this topic at the last meet and greet. We need more collaborating among businesses, local groups such as our creative district, our local school district, our city council, and those that just want to be involved. We have so many neat and unique amenities to offer to not only our citizens, but to visitors as well. We need to bring together all key entities involved in moving our town forward. From extensive experience in bringing multiple parties together, I have several ideas of how we can do this successfully. Another struggle I see is the lack of housing in Chewelah. We have a long line of individuals and families, some of which that want to bring new businesses to Chewelah, and we just don't have the housing to allow them to. I, along with the city council, could incentivize those wanting to build. We could do this through a number of different options, including simplifying the existing process to obtain permits, offering business incentives to encourage new jobs and economy to enter our town, and or reducing the costs on behalf of the city that are incurred to even start to build. These are just a few simple ideas that could yield very beneficial results. Results such as more revenue stream for every new hookup of utilities, more taxes coming in from new businesses, an increase in revenues for our school district, and expanding our budget through other forms of revenue to be able to afford more items. Thank you again for your time tonight, and if you need any elaboration on the items I've spoken about, please don't hesitate to reach out. God bless, and best of luck to all of you in the upcoming election.
The next candidate for mayor is Greg McCubbin.
How long is my lead? 6 minutes to provide an opportunity for an audience to get to know you. And are we not on?
A little closer to your mouth.
Closer.
Sorry, no, it was off. We're good. 6 minutes to provide an opportunity for you to get to know me and hopefully earn the privilege of winning your vote for the next mayor of the city of Chewelah. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I'm truly honored to be a candidate, to be standing up here with such great leaders and citizens and participate in this process and be able to speak to you. In the short time that I have, I'd like you to know a little bit about who I am and what makes me tick as an individual. I'm going to talk about the contributions we've made to Chewelah since we've been here, and then I'm going to share what I have really learned through hundreds of meetings, what I believe are our three primary struggles that tie to many other perceived struggles. But first and foremost, I hope that as I go through this, you feel the excitement I feel about our future in Chewelah, because I think we're standing at a threshold of time when opportunity is great. But first, a little bit about me. So I'm 52 years old. I was raised kind of moving around most of my life. Parents divorced at 9, so I was raised by my mother, middle lower class home, and moving around regularly. I met the love of my life 33 years ago in Missoula, Montana, Janie. She's sitting in the back. And many of you know her from Mountain Market on Main. We have 4 wonderful children, one of whom went to college and still lives with his wife, Sydney, in Colorado. We're recruiting back to Chewelah, visit by visit. And then we have Caden, whom you might know as the fly fisherman on Chewelah Creek in the park. He's also the mastermind who builds the rock sculptures that you might have seen on Facebook. Sam is a gregarious redhead. He is 17, and everybody who knows him loves him, and his life's passion is football. And then I have my sweet 16, Ms. Marin. In terms of, like, if you unpack Greg and you try to ask yourself, what's this guy all about? I mean, I'm going to vote for him, maybe, maybe not, to be mayor of our city. That's a huge responsibility and has a lot of influence. So I want you to know who I am and what really makes me tick. At my essence, I'm a Christian, I'm a follower of Christ. And that's the most important relationship in my life. But that doesn't mean that I expect you to have that same relationship or same beliefs. I believe in a word that sums up what kind of moves as I move through life is authenticity, because inside the word authenticity is honesty, is sincerity, and constancy. And as mayor, I think, especially in the political climate we have, we need authenticity. You need to know that what someone says is what they mean, not some hidden agenda. And I would offer you sincerity. You need to know what they say is actually true. And I believe in telling the truth. And you need somebody who is constant, meaning that when they put their shoulder to it and say they're going to do it, they get it done. Now, 6 minutes in hearing me talk about these things doesn't mean I possess these things. So many of you I know. Some of you I know very well. For those of you I don't know, I would encourage you please to validate what I'm saying and ask, do you actually see these things in Greg? Would we see them if he were to become mayor? In terms of our contribution to Chewelah, our life existence here has been nothing but that. And it's been the greatest joy of my life. We have moved and rented the Lovejoy home, which was a tear-down, newly renovated. Then, by just a miracle, we got to buy the Tarble farm and renovate that. Historic only farm on Main Street. Got to know the Tarbles very well. Got to name Jenny's first women and clothing store after Grandma Tarble. Then, dream of all dreams, St. Mary's came on the market. We never thought it would be within reach, a 100-year-old Catholic school, but we always dreamt, because Jen and I always dreamed big. And so, seeing the success of her business gathered down by the post office taking off and the opportunity for St. Mary's come to pass, we approached Father Booth at the time and were able to buy St. Mary's. And right now have restored it and given it back to the community, repurposed as Mountain Market. The reason I bring that up is our contribution, because when you think about, well, did we do deep analysis or anything like, no, we took what we had. We took our life savings and we said, let's take our investment, let's invest it in the future of our kids and the gifts that we have, and let's do it with excellence and give it back to community. We came to Chewelah to be part of a community. We grew up in small town Montana. We lived in Pennsylvania. Believe me, we got it good here. And we're all here because of community. And so how we treat one another, how we spend our money, what we do with what we have is what builds community. And I hope that for those of you who don't know me well, will come visit Mountain Market and see it in living color. We're dead serious about contributing to this community and really have put our money where our mouth is. In terms of the struggles in our community, I think it touches 3 areas. We have to put the past behind us. This community is resilient. But I've talked to people on porches for hours who in 1968, husband went to work at Magnesite and was fired the next day. Many of my friends had the same experience at Alcoa. But we can't let our past define our future. We can't continue to say things like we've never done it that way, or we've always done it this way, or we've tried that, it didn't work. We really have to break out of our past and take advantage of the future that sits in front of us. We also have to find a common thread that unites us together, because we have all the talent, all the brilliance, all the creativity to grab hold of this future that's ours. But what's the common thread? Because we have all these independent groups doing great work, but they're doing them independently. And through all the meetings I've had with different business and city leaders, realized that actually the comprehensive plan is that common thread. That comprehensive plan and aligning our good efforts to that core plan. As mayor, I would champion that plan and awareness for everybody and every citizen so that we could all start to move in a common direction across multiple fronts. And the last piece I'll leave you with is probably the most important piece, and my sincere commitment to you. Communication's a bugger. Valiant efforts are made to communicate from the current mayor's office and other business leaders in the city. But the number one thing I've learned going around in the hundreds of meetings I've had is we don't know all the good stuff that's going on. As mayor, I will be the champion of communicating all the good that's going on in the community. And I really think that our future is bright, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. God bless you.
All right, next up for City Council position number 1 is Silas Rapp.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me have this chance to come and introduce myself to you. My name is Silas Rapp. I moved here with my family in 2017. I jumped into a position at Tri-County Economic Development District in Colville and really dove into the world of economic development in Northeast Washington. Through that position, it's been awesome to really see how this area functions, the gaps, the needs, and the flourishing that is happening up here. Myself, we moved up here from Utah, Moab, Utah, so I grew up in a small town setting that when I left it no longer felt like a small town anymore. If any of you guys are aware, Moab is an outdoor recreation mecca, and so I grew up rafting, I grew up mountain biking, I grew up hiking, four-wheeling, all of it. And so my passion naturally drove that way. I went to school for natural resource management. I worked for the Forest Service for a number of years. And then after grad school, I decided to take a different path, and I ended up working for REI, Recreation Equipment Incorporated, in Fort Collins, Colorado, and doing community engagement. So really figuring out how to tie REI into the community and how we could give back to the community that we were a part of. There I met my lovely wife, and we got married, and we ended up leaving Fort Collins and serving with Youth with a Mission. It's a mission organization, and we lived in Belize and Guatemala and El Salvador for about 6 months, really just kind of figuring out what we were going to do, with our marriage and how we were going to get engaged. And down there, I just felt the urge to head back to Moab and to really work with youth. And so we moved back to Moab, and we started a chapter of Young Life, which is a youth ministry that's been around for 77 years about now. And we did that for about 7 years, and it was amazing. It was a time of growth for myself, doing something that I had never done before, but taking a lot of my past experience and being able to apply it to that position. And then growth in the sense of we had 3 lovely children through that time period. And it was soon after we had our 3rd that we realized that there was a need for a shift. And so my family is in Utah, is in Moab still, but my wife's family is actually from up here, Kettle Falls, that area. And so we wanted to, I wanted to take a break from ministry and really dive back in and figure out my family and just be the best dad I could be. And so in doing that, we came up here, and like I said, I got a job with Tri-County Economic Development District, and here I am today. Community engagement, to me, community involvement is so important. It is really the grassroots of how we make the place that we live better and how we set things up so that also the future is much more brighter for the next generation. And so in moving here, I jumped in right off the bat, and this kind of plays into that first question of what I've done in the area to kind of benefit and how I saw the need. Coming from with that recreation background and coming from Moab, we came up here and we're like, where are the trails? Where can we go mountain biking? Where can we go hiking? All this stuff. And through my work at Tri-County, I realized there's kind of a black hole. There are trails around here and stuff like that, but there's just a gap in information and infrastructure and such. And so I went to a meeting down, we started at Quartzsite. It was for the Chewelah A to Z project with the Forest Service. And in looking at that, I'm not going to go into what that is necessarily, but there was a model that was made, and we realized that we needed to kind of get ahead of that project to help develop some recreation assets so not only for me and my family I could get out and recreate more, but those that would be moving here and recognizing that recreation is such an important economic driver and something low-hanging fruit that we can really take advantage of in bringing some more finances and money to our economy. So at that meeting, we went and looked at the A to Z project, realized that there was a need for a recreation plan. We really wanted to come together and get the community involved to find out how we would like to see the community develop recreation, how we would like to see the community develop those assets, into the future. And so myself and a couple other people were able to really convene an interest group of stakeholders like land management agencies, the Forest Service, BLM, DNR, as well as business owners, Chamber of Commerce. Mayor Dorothy was there, and a number of people from the community. But we started meeting on a monthly basis at Quartzsite and really diving into and developing a plan that would look at how we could develop recreation assets for our community for years down the road. We didn't want to come in and like I said, what I saw in Moab was a lot of times people would come in and tell you this is how you do it, and they just steamroll, and it left the community kind of in the dust. And I wanted to see that not happen here. I wanted to see us develop it from the core out. And so we were able to do that for about a year. We met, like I said, constantly, and we developed what we call the CARPE, the Chewelah Area Recreation Planning Effort. That plan is now on file with the State Conservation Office, and the benefit of it is that any of the agencies or entities that were involved in it can now go after funding, grant dollars and different things like that to help develop like recreation assets. Specifically, One of the things that we highlighted was the potential, some of the improvements to the park or potential walking, bike path or different things like that that might connect the park down to downtown, but different stuff like that. And so now those projects are not totally unattainable because they're in this plan and we can go after money for it. So that's one little thing. I've also been tapped for a number of other planning projects. Like I said, I'm the district planner. Planning is my thing. And that kind of leads into that second question of where I see struggle. I feel like a lot of the work that I've done, just not only in Chewelah, but regionally, is kind of taking a step back and looking at the communities around us, looking at this region, and realizing that although there was planning efforts that were done in the past, we all have the comprehensive plans and different things like that from the county level on down, but there was also just a lot of planning efforts that weren't there, and we were just kind of doing hodgepodge. We want to see this happen, and so we're just going to go out and do it. Well, a lot of times in local government and nonprofits and things like that, when you want to go after grant money and stuff like that, you have to have a plan that those projects are based in. And so that's where I feel like I could bring a strong voice to city council in just helping to I think Greg touched on it perfectly, tie into the comprehensive plan that the city has done, and as well as tying our comprehensive plan into the bigger regional comprehensive economic development strategy that we are putting together for the region. And that really lays out things, how this region wants to move forward. And as we look at plans from that big perspective on down to the local level, if we're moving towards the same thing, it helps us create a stronger argument and a stronger case when we're going after those grant dollars or those state dollars or those federal dollars. So that's huge. And in that, one of the things that Chewelah has is the community. This community has been amazing. And in just a few years that I've been here, I have seen just from the community events to, like I said, the planning efforts, different stuff like that, they've been awesome. But really, one thing that's missing is, and it's been touched on already, is the collaboration between all the many different things that are going on. We have such great momentum and we have such great things going on, but sometimes there's too many things going on in two different directions, and we're not seeing that we're actually all working towards the same goal. And when we come together, we are much stronger than we are when we're doing it in our own little silos. And so that's one thing that I really want to be able to bring to the table is to help, whether it's the next mayor or the rest of the city council or just the community in general, just to figure out how we can come together, open up those lines of communication from the top down, and just really work together to see our area grow and flourish. So thank you so much.
All right, and Tracy Lane wasn't able to make it tonight. So next up will be Sean Peterson for council position number 2.
All right, thanks for having me. I did a jog on the way here and exercised to try to make the nervousness go away, but it didn't do anything. So I had only one idea. Respectfully, I'd like to skip on to that. The first question, I'm not going to have a very good answer to. I've lived here comfortably for 20 years. My grandma and grandpa moved here to retire. I think they made the right decision. I'm not going to brag about being friendly to anyone, so I don't have a lot of experience contributing a heck of a lot to the town, so sorry about that. And the thing that I see about struggling is what I wanted to talk about. So I had this idea. I was thinking about all the fires we keep having every year during the summer when people are shopping for houses. And if the firefighting budget is going to be a subject of discussion for years to come, I figure that Chewelah might be included in that discussion more if we had a reputation of showing our appreciation of firefighters. And there's a lot of ways to do that, and my idea is kind of big, but I want to throw it out there. I think if we had a reputation, and yeah, I already said that part. Did I already say that part? Yeah, I did. Thank you. I'm doing good. So the way we could do that is relabel ourselves. Is that what it is? relabel ourselves a firefighting district. That's what I was trying to say. And so we could, the sign coming into town, we change that a little bit. We could put in a mural of firefighters from back in the old days. And any fire trucks that we have access to, we could incorporate that, which I think we've already done before. And anything else that might give people some comfort when they come out here, thinking to move out here. Even with smoke in the air, they might see that we're taking the fire seriously, something like that. Yeah, I don't have a heck of a lot more to give you, but that's what I wanted to say. And I only have a general idea of how politics works, and I hope you don't feel like I wasted your time. But that's what I wanted to say. So I'm going to give you the rest of my time. That's all I had. My opponent's a much better choice.
All right. Aaron Alvarado wasn't able to make it tonight, and neither was Peyton Norvell. So next up will be Jolene Mcgee for City Council position number 4.
Hi, thank you. John? Yeah. Okay. If you don't know me, I am currently on your city council. I was selected to fill a vacant spot last summer when one of the council members moved out of the city limits, so I was selected to fill that spot. So I'm on your ballot in November to keep my seat, and currently nobody's running against me, but I couldn't let this opportunity pass me by to get up in front of you, let you see who I am, let you put a face to the name, and talk about some of the good things we are doing, some things I'd like to do, and some encouragement for the community on how you can get involved as well. So again, my name is Jolene Mcgee. I moved here in 2015, so I've been here for a few years, but I grew up in New Mexico in small communities, actually a community about this size, and farming and ranching type of families, all rural. And then I lived in Texas, in California, and Colorado. That's where my college education and my career took me, so around the different states. I've lived in big cities. I lived outside the San Francisco area before. I lived in Denver. I lived in smaller towns. I lived in Durango, Colorado. If you don't know what that is, it's a touristy town that started about this small when my mom was born there in the 50s. Again, kind of like what Silas was saying, you have experience seeing how a town could go and grow a little bit out of control, and that's a good example. So the reason why I wanted to get involved in city council is because I have a servant's heart, and I knew that was a way that I could get out and help make a change. But even before that, to answer the first question, what have I done to help the community, and what motivated me to do that? In moving here, I heard about opportunities to join in and participate in community forums where you give your opinion about what you want to see done in this town. And that's a bit of my encouragement to you all too, is you don't have to be on the council or be a commissioner or anything like that. We in the city and Chamber of Commerce and within the community love to just have your inputs. And that's what we're there for, is to listen to you and say, let's take that input. You know, we just heard an interesting idea I hadn't heard before, but maybe there's something to that. Maybe we can look into that. So those are ways that we can all get involved, and the way I was getting involved and participating and helping out with community is giving that kind of feedback. The other thing I did is, even before I was on city council, is actually go to the city council meetings. Everybody is invited. You can go, you can listen to it. Sometimes that's a more interesting thing going on in this town, you know. There's a movie theater to go to, so why not go to a city council meeting, right, Jared?
That's right.
He knows. But what I found so interesting is you learn so much about how the city operates and what kind of great things are being done. As Greg said, you know, there is information out there on our website And one thing that I also find is in talking to community members is a lot of times they don't know that we have these comprehensive plans. And they don't know that we have a long-term, multi-year plan for maintaining and improving our roads. And we have how much each one of those roads would cost and the plan to get the money for it. So we have that, we work on that every year, we update it. And currently we're in the middle of putting together our budgets for 2022, and that's an interesting process as well. And we like to have people there. You can come, you can listen, you can talk to us afterwards and say, hey, I don't like that idea, or I have another idea. Give us your inputs, give us your ideas. And something on the last questions about where Chewelah is struggling and what I'd like to do to help with that. One thing is the communication, like I was saying, and I think Greg alluded to it as well, is getting that communication out to the public. I did put together, I'm not a huge Facebook user, but it seems like a lot of people in this town get all their news off of Facebook. So I did put together a Councilwoman Mcgee Facebook page, and I'll admit that's about the only thing I do on Facebook, is I'll get on there and I'll put a link as to when there's a city council meeting. And I hope as I can figure out more, be able to share links where you can find things. It's on our website, sometimes a little bit buried, but there are ways to find that. We also have codes, and we have municipal codes and rules, and it's all on the website, but you need to just go in there and look for it. But I also think where we struggle is being able to attract and retain people in our community. And we've heard a little bit of some of the discussion here today about recreational areas, helping with businesses, helping to make this a better community that would attract and attract and retain professionals and families. And I know for some of us, we might say, well, I'm not really interested in that. I'm not going to go out and, right now, I'm not going to go out and do much out in the woods right now. I'm not going to do much hiking or riding or anything. I don't have children in the school system, so maybe that doesn't mean a lot to me. But I also care about, other families getting here and other children coming and having good education and attracting professionals in the area, because that is something in this whole region that is a struggle, is getting medical care professionals here and keeping them, mental health care professionals. And I think when we have communities that people want to come and live at, that would help in that area as well. The other thing is I have a really good job. I worked for 21 years for a huge aerospace company, a contractor. But I work from home, so I'm a telecommuter, and there's a lot of telecommuters around here too. And if you think about that, that is one great way to attract people that bring their own jobs and their own income into this town. We don't have to build a factory to attract them, etc. But it does take making this a place where people want to live and want to stay. And so where we can on city council, I think it's good to find ways where we can help with that and help with businesses getting started up as well. And then also I hope that I can also be a connection between like the creative district. I've been in some of that, in some of those meetings and given inputs there. And then I volunteer at the museum, and we're trying to get the museum kind of up and beautiful and do more with that too. So those are some of my ideas, but I welcome you to stop me at any point and tell me more. I'd love to listen to you and hear what your ideas are. Thanks.
All right, then. Okay, the next position is the City Council at Large, and the first candidate we'll hear from is Christy Smith.
Good evening. My name is Christy Smith, and I'm running for Chewelah City Council at Large position. I'd like to open this speech by quoting Brandon Hansen's newspaper article from January of 2019, featured in the Chewelah Independent, titled "Keeping Chewelah Weird." The weirdness that Brandon speaks of regarding Chewelah is actually what ties us together as a community. In this article, Brandon references that no one from outside of Chewelah can actually pronounce the name correctly, and he's right. He also references that Main Street is actually Main Ave. Brandon points out that there are renowned artists that call Chewelah home, and this is reflected in our city culture and events. He also references Chewelah's scenic mountain quartzite. And for those of us who have hiked this mountain trail, we know the not-so-easy hike is worth the view from the top. In the article, Brandon also references our rich history of Chewelah, which I am very proud of. These are just some of the many quirks of our community that Brandon references in the article. While the title of the article is Keep Chewelah Weird, it's not. It's these things and more that tie us together as a strong and thriving community. It's these things and more that make Chewelah an amazing place to live. I want to ask you a question and invite you to reflect on it. Why do each of you live here? I am sure I would hear many amazing stories from many different individuals. I want each of you to know that my family has a deep-rooted history here, and I plan on building on that history to make this community a better place for all of us to live. In my last speech, I spoke of my qualifications as to being a city council member. If you are interested in my qualifications, please come see me in the back after each of the candidate speeches. For this speech, I am going to speak of some things where I would hold the line or my political standings. First, I support our law enforcement officers and our first responders. Thank you for the hard work that you do in this community every day. I also support equity for every human being in our community. Second, I support holding offenders in our community accountable for their actions. Third, I am a Christian and I am living proof of God's grace and forgiveness. So let's move into the questions that are presented to each candidate for this evening. Question 1, give us an example of how you have contributed to positive change in the community and how did you go about identifying that need? So I have 2 examples for this question. The first example is in my professional work in the Children's Advocacy Center of Ferry and Stevens counties for the last 8 years. The Stevens County Children's Advocacy Center and its multidisciplinary team serves children who have been harmed, some of those children right here in Chewelah. The multidisciplinary team is a powerful team of professionals that surrounds the child and their non-offending caregivers and healing services, offering hope and justice for that child. This is my first example of identifying the needs and contributing to positive change in our community. My second example of positive change in our community is building and maintaining youth sports programs for the children of our community. When one sees a need, such as lack of leadership or coaches, one steps up to fill those needs in our community, especially for our children. This is my second example of identifying a need in our community and creating positive change. Question 2, what do you see as struggles in Chewelah and how can you help? The first struggle in Chewelah is community safety, especially property theft. I can help by improving relationships with systems that hold offenders accountable in our community. Next, I would want to assist in creating city ordinances and a community culture that deters theft and violence in our community. The next struggle that I see that is a very hot topic in our community right now is the city streets and sidewalks. First, I would take a look at funding sources and ensure they are being allocated correctly and as efficiently as possible. Next, I would want to work with the city crew on education and training for paving and resurfacing of city streets. Last, I would assist in seeking out additional funding sources for the resurfacing of most of the city streets, if not all. The last and the next struggle that I see in our community is the lack of opportunities for each member of our community. I would want to place an emphasis on additional activities for community members with the focus on children and elderly populations. I will continue to facilitate the youth programs as a start. I would want to explore additional opportunities for children and the elderly, especially to connect with one another, but with COVID precautions. I believe this can all happen by listening to and speaking with our community on ideas to make this happen. Again, I am Christy Smith, and I am running for Chewelah City Council at large position, and I would appreciate your vote. And also, I would like to wish my fellow candidates all the best of luck in the upcoming elections. Thank you.
All right, the next candidate we'll hear from is John Kobaskey.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Yes. Hi, my name is John Kobaskey, and I've been up here since about 2015. I was actually recruited to come up here. Prior to that, I had been with the National Health Service Corps. I work in medicine, so I had worked in multiple states. I worked in Missouri in a small farming community, which I really liked, but it lacked big mountains and things like that. And then I worked in New Mexico. I worked in the lowrider capital of the United States, not making that up, in northern New Mexico, which was a lot of fun for a year. And then I went to Durango, Colorado, and I worked there for another year. And you know, Durango was a cool ski town, a cool mountain town, but it had problems and it was very expensive. It is kind of what has some of the bad things that could happen to Chewelah in 15 or 20 years, where you have a lot of wealthy people move in and they outprice things for the locals. And you know, it becomes a service industry driven community. And that's not the best thing in the world, because those jobs tend not to be able to allow families to support themselves as property values rise. So then I was looking for a job, and I'd never been to Washington State, and I ended up here, and I fell in love with it when I moved here. You know, I was looking for Mayberry in the mountains, and I found it. And you know, it was a welcoming community. I grew up in Maryland, about an hour outside of Washington, D.C., in southern Maryland, down in the lower Chesapeake Bay, in a community there where, since we had moved from the close suburbs of Washington, D.C., we were considered outsiders by the locals, by the families that had grew up there and things like that. And you know, up here I find none of that. I find that it's a very welcoming community, which was very refreshing, because you kind of never know what you're getting into when you know, visit a place twice and then buy a house and settle down. And you know, me and my partner, we really love living here. It's home. I worked for New Health for about 4 years. Currently, I work with the Indian Health Service in Wellpinnick as a medical provider there. I've been on the forefront of COVID since it started, with testing, screening, developing plans of action with our government agencies. We work with the U.S. Public Health Service, things like that. You know, but you know, as far as like positive change in the community, you know, I can't stick my hat on things like other people can. My kids didn't grow up. Well, my daughter didn't grow up here. By the time I moved up here, she was 18 years old and finishing high school in Bend, Oregon. So, you know, the positive change I've been able to do, like join the fire department, because I had been working on my career very hard, and after I got here, I wanted to do something fun. So I joined the fire department. Did that when I was younger. And I had the ability to do that. I was a little over 50, and a lot of times if you show up at the volunteer fire department, a lot of places you're over 50, they want to just put you on some committee and have you cook hamburgers or something like that. I get to do both here. I get to cook hamburgers and run some calls down there. It's a great group of guys, you know what I mean? You know, we get to eat a lot of hamburgers too, you know. But it's a lot of fun, it's a great community, it's a great way to bond with people. And I think the great thing about Chewelah is people can come here and become part of the community fairly easily. If you work hard, you put yourself out there, you're accepted. I think it's a very loving community. I think we need to keep kicking that forward. As far as the struggles of the community I see, you know, I got a bunch of stuff written. I kind of have ADD, so I walk around with stickies at work all the time, writing things. My job at work is solving problems. I'm a family medical provider. My partner was telling me the other day, she's like, she was talking to me, she said, it's like a dog chasing a bone. What do you think of this problem? And I am like a dog chasing a bone with problems. Identify a problem, I have to go solve it. That's what I do every day at work. And I think, you know, Chewelah has a lot of good things going on, and they have a good master plan, and it's about keeping it. But the struggles we have is like a lot of things. Infrastructure and roads. drive down Main Avenue, Main Street, whatever they're calling it this week. You know, sometimes I want to send a bill to Dorothy for a front end alignment a couple times a year. You know, but that wouldn't be good. But you know, we have some problems with the roads. We have social issues. We have homeless people here. We have a beautiful park. We had the issue there with the people living in the van. You know, and I think that what we have to realize with the community is, a lot of times in our society now, what we do, if you watch the news too much, I kind of quit watching the news because it drives me crazy, is we take the least productive people and we want to cater to them all the time. And yes, everybody needs a helping hand, everybody needs help. But I don't think the kids should not be able to go use the park because there's a band park there with a bunch of crap strewn around there and some mean dogs. I think we need to make sure that we take care of all the citizens of our community. And we make sure it is safe, we have good access to the parks and the recreation and things like that. And, you know, we need to be able to take a stand and not be afraid to be able to stand up for the citizens of Chewelah. You know, so that's a safety thing. We have a great police force. I think our police force does a great job. I was watching them a couple months ago. There was some guy falling down in front of the city hall in the evening, and the two cops went over there. They were very polite with him. They helped him get up, get on his way. A lot of times we don't see that about our law enforcement, especially on the news and things like that. But I think we have a very professional group. We need to make sure we support them. We also need to make sure that as we move forward, that we're supporting our city staff. The guys that drive the snowplows, things like that, make sure they're properly supported. Like there are certain things going on, like we need a new trash truck. You know, we need to make sure they have the tools they need. They do a lot of things that a lot of us don't know about, where when they're digging up the roads and putting pipes and stuff in, they're doing that. It saves the city a lot of money. Okay? Because if you send some contractor out there paying Seattle wages, it's going to cost a lot more. And those are things that sometimes it's hard to get grants and stuff for. I think we need to make sure that as we're going through things, we keep supporting our city workers, police, fire, you know, building on them. And you know, part of the city council is they have a good plan. I go to a fair amount of city council meetings, and the city has a pretty good plan. They have plans for grants and paving and doing this, and it all takes time. And a lot of us don't know about that. I think that's what Greg and others have talked about, is good communication. If you know that the city's working on it, or it's going to happen in the future, it makes you not get so upset when you hit a pothole or something like that. I think back to basic city council. I think we have a great city council right now. It's very diverse. We have different people with different backgrounds on there. I think that's what you want. You don't want a bunch of clones on anything doing the same thing. You want people that have different backgrounds. And you know, like we had Nicole on city council who was an engineer. There's a lot of civil engineering stuff going on, and she's able to sort through that. You have Mrs. Mcgee over here who has a good finance background. She can read those long spreadsheets and all that exciting stuff like that. And you know, I think we need to make sure we keep the city council, you know, diverse as possible to a certain point. You know, so I think a back to basic city council, common sense. I think the city council's job is to support the citizens of the city, all citizens. And you know, we talk about schools and things like that. The city council doesn't have a whole lot to do with schools. They just don't. That's the school board guys that are going to go next and talk about that, okay? But I think the job of the city is to support and listen to people. You know, if businesses want to move into the city, builders want to build certain things, the city's council's job is to be the facilitator between the citizens and business to make sure growth happens correctly and fairly for everybody. We have a population in Chewelah. You know, we have an aging population. We have a lot of retirees, aging population, and we need to make sure everybody's taken care of. That the resources are there. That we have the community health center. We have the health centers. That we have activities for both kids, adults, and people in between. One of the things I would facilitate was, with the way things are going now, I would like to see some kind of social engagement with the police force and the kids. You know, I think a lot of times the cops, if the kids watch the news, they have a bad rap, or the cops are bad, and to see more of an interaction and education process there, you know, where the police officers, you know, interact with the kids in a positive way. And we have, like I said, we have great cops and things like that. I just think a little bit of help there is probably needed nationwide, because sometimes kids spend too much time on the computers and all they hear is all the negative stuff. But I'm excited to be running. I'm really happy to be here. You know, if I win, Christy wins, I think you guys get a good person no matter what. I sleep well at night, and thanks for your time, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.
All right, next we're going to hear for the candidates for the school board, and we're going to hear for school board position number 1 first, and we'll start with Judy Bean.
Thank you very much. I know a number of people. Thank you. I know a number of people here, and there are some new faces to me too. I've lived in this community all my life, with about the exception of 15 years where we lived and worked in other places, but chose to come back to Chewelah, and so I've been in this general area for a long time. My background in education is classroom teacher, principal, district administrator, university professor, trainer, and consultant. So I've had the opportunity to not only work locally, but to see a lot of things and a lot of different places in our country. And I also worked in Canada on weekends for 8 years. So that has added to the enrichment that I am able to bring to my community and help me understand things from a different perspective. When I read that first question about what have you done to make change in your community, and that to me would be a very abstract kind of answer that I would give to you. So since I taught kindergarten for a while, I decided to show and tell. In this community, I have belonged to the Chamber of Commerce, to Sir Optimus and Kiwanis and the Chewelah Arts Guild for years and years and years. And so about 2014, we had been talking on the Chamber for many, many times about what are the things that we can do to promote business and engage our people in the community. So this one person decided pumpkins might be a good idea. I'd seen some things that happen in the different parts of the country, and we have a beautiful park, and how can we engage people? And so we started an event called Light Up the Park, and I just thought you might have some familiarity. And so another young friend said, well, we could go for a Guinness World Record, you know. So we did, and we didn't meet that the first year, but the second year the word got out, and we broke the Guinness World Record, but we actually fell 65 pumpkins short of setting a Guinness World Record. That went to a community in Japan of 70,000 people. But it wasn't about a Guinness World Record. It was about bringing people together in our community with no barriers. We have photographs of a little 7-month-old sitting in his daddy's lap and carving a pumpkin, and next to them there were the 70-somethings couple carving their pumpkins. There were no barriers to this event because of cost. We invited everyone to come, and we had high engagement. And that was what that event was about. And so that question about how do you create change is a leadership question. Max Dupree has written a lot of things about leadership. And he asked leaders the questions, can you be trusted? Can people achieve their goals by following you? Are you honest? Are you prepared? Are you committed? Do you do your homework? And my answer is yes. So Light Up the Park was my example of that. The other question was, with what does your district struggle? I think there's struggles, but I think they're mostly challenges. Right now, I think every school district is struggling to some extent with the COVID, because there are a lot of things that school districts cannot control there. But there are challenges, and there will always be challenges because we're working with human beings. That's our business. And learning is our business. But challenges can be met, and they can be worked on, and they always will be. Some of the challenges that we're working on in Chewelah School District right now is student achievement. That will always be a focus for us in raising all boats and helping all learners succeed. Our other focuses, along with that, are looking at facilities. Our facilities are about 40 years old. And so we have to do long-range planning, and we've adopted some policies that call for long-range, short-range planning, and along with good maintenance plans. So that is progress for us. So another challenge that we have, and sometimes when you're a small school district and you're a little bit remote and rural, professional learning becomes more of a challenge, and it has been for our staff, certainly during this time of COVID, but we're working on that, and we've adopted policies in that area. And one of the questions that we should be asked by our community is, are the kids learning? How do we know? By what evidence? And so we have adopted a policy on assessment for the first time in our school district, and we're working on that. You will see in a newsletter that is coming out that this district is working on communication. And we're thrilled with our new superintendent, Jason Perrins, who's in the back of this room. And he personifies leadership to us as a board. And we are very committed to you as a district. I've been on the board for about 3.5 years, and I am very inspired by what I'm seeing in our school district and with our school board currently. And I do believe that the kids in Chewelah deserve and can have a quality education, as high a quality as anywhere else in this country, and also meeting the standards that are worldwide, because our kids will live in this 21st century global community. Thank you very much.
All right, the next candidate up is Bill Lacy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to be here. My name is Bill Lacy, and I've been a farmer for over 20 years, and I've been a project manager for 25 years, and I've had an opportunity to complete a lot of projects, and I know how to do things, and I intend to use some of those skills as a school board member. But today, we're facing problems that we've never had before, and today we have to figure out how to deal with them. The future of our education, to me, is at stake because the state of Washington has adopted CRT, or if you don't like CRT, it's called 5044, or if you don't like 5044, it's called Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, Anti-Racism, and Cultural Competency. Whatever you guys want to call it, it's here and it's here to stay unless we fight it now. And thank you, everyone. And that's what I intend to do, because I believe you have to have somebody strong enough on the council to say, no, we're not going to do this when the state comes and knocks on your door.
Thank you.
And I intend to stand up and do that. Another thing is that if we're going to say no and we're going to stand up and we're going to improve our education system, then we've got to have somebody that will actually do that. And right now, our education system is not doing real well. And what I mean by that is that a third of the people interviewed in the United States can't list the First Amendment guarantees. 2 out of 5 Americans can't list the 3 divisions of government. A third of the millennials surveyed thought that President Bush killed more people than Joseph Stalin. And we're 31st in the world in math. And right now, to me, we have a problem. And I'm willing to stand up and say, we're going to fix this problem. And the way we fix it is to begin to get our kids away from the political indoctrination, away from all this socialism that's going on, and teach them facts, and teach them math, and teach them reading, and teach them writing. And that's, that's what I intend to do. And an example of how critical race theory is encompassing the state of Washington. At the University of Washington, there's what's known as affirmity groups. And what that means is that there are groups of minorities who are now grouping together and trying to move in a racial and a political way in the name of diversity. And what that does is it separates us from being a cohesive organization or a cohesive country. We're supposed to be a melting pot for Americans. If we keep going at the rate we're going, we will not be a melting pot. We'll have all these divisions and they'll all be fighting each other, and it's not the way we want to do it. And I don't want to do that either. One of the things that I really like about Chewelah School is at Guest, right here at Guest Junior High, the principal of this grade school has started a STEM program for science. And I think it's great. I love STEM program. My wife came from Sisters, Oregon, and they have a big STEM program. And they also have there a science contest where they get kids from both grade school, junior high, and high school to come together and develop science projects, and they stimulate the kids in learning how to do this. They also get a great idea going on among the teachers and the kids. Well, this is what I want to start here. I mean, this is what we need. And the principal has already got this going, and we're going to make this really big because in Oregon, they have a national science project going on. And I think that's great. Do we have that here? No. But we're going to, and it's going to be big. Another thing that I want to do is in civics class, I really expect from this point on that we're going to learn the Constitution and we're going to learn the Bill of Rights.
We do that here too.
Nope.
That's the definition of civics.
I'd love to talk to you. And I support the United States Constitution and all its guarantees. I also support the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and because it guarantees the right to be free and the right of all citizens to be free. And Martin Luther King said that you should be judged by your character, and I agree with that. I think that's the way we should do things, and that's the way we should proceed. So what I intend to do in the future is try to do these type of programs and get these type of things going, but I want to make sure that the kids are educated with facts and not with emotion or indoctrination. It's absolutely critical that if you have the facts and you have the history background and you're able to think and say, listen, I remember back in history class that it said that XXX, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we shouldn't allow that. Maybe we should fight back with that, and that's what I want to do. So, thank you for listening, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, next up are the candidates for the School Board Director number 2 position, and we'll first hear from Steve Phillips.
All right. Greetings to one and all. My name is Steve Phillips, and I'm running for Chewelah School Board in District 2. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about myself in this section, but I do want to get some stuff off my chest about some issues. I'd like to start by defending myself against the suggestion being put out by some of my critics in the paper and other places, that when I talk about critical race theory in schools, I'm repeating a right-wing conspiracy theory. Well, I have brought along for everyone a printout with ample evidence that the conspiracy theory talking point is not true. There is a stack of these on the table back there. If you believe the talking point, I challenge you to read this report. It's an eye-opener, and it includes information about schools in Washington. The Seattle area schools are well ahead of the governor and the legislature when it comes to getting this junk into schools. So I would encourage everyone to grab one of these. Assuming you believe the quote, CRT is a conspiracy theory, unquote, angle, how then to explain this quote from the NEA, the world's largest teachers union? The NEA will support and lead campaigns that, quote, result in increasing the implementation of culturally responsive education, critical race theory, and ethnic studies curriculum in pre-K-12 and higher education, unquote. Conspiracy theory. On to the vaccine mandate. On the back of my CRT report is a reprint of an op-ed written by a municipal court judge in Federal Way, who lays out the argument that the mandate is illegal. Yes. In short, our state constitution does not give the governor the power to do this. Only the legislature has that power, even in an emergency. Now, on the district website, Superintendent Perrins has an article stating that, quote, we are legally required to follow the governor's directive, unquote. Left unsaid is what's going to happen to employees who refuse the vaccine. I'm sure Mr. Perrins, who is a very nice guy, believes that this is all legal. I disagree with him on this. It is not legal. And if I serve on the school board, I will never agree to fire any employee because of this mandate. Yeah. Instead, we should be figuring out a way for our loyal, valuable employees to get around this travesty, even to the point of allowing people to submit a no questions asked religious exemption if they need to in order to keep their jobs. In other words, we should be helping them. Okay, question 1. Give us an example of how you have contributed to positive change in the community, and how did you go about identifying the need? This is a great question. My spouse and I haven't been involved in community affairs much, but after retiring and moving to this community, we have upped our game a bit. Here's what happened. During the 2020 campaign, we wanted some yard signs. We went to the Republican sign shop in Chewelah and met a lot of very nice people. Before you know it, we are volunteering our time at the shop, taking donations and handing out signs. Next thing you know, my wife, Rita, take a bow. My wife, Rita, right here. Next thing you know, my wife becomes the Stevens County Republican Committee Secretary, and I'm on a committee to plan the annual Lincoln Day dinner for 350 people, which was held on September 11th this year, and was an enormous success. So helping the Republicans do what they do is a great benefit to the community, especially when you consider the absolutely stellar people we are running for elected office. And when I get on the school board, I'll be able to increase and expand upon my civic engagement even further, which I'm looking forward to. Question 2, what do you see as struggles in the school district and how can you help? Well, money's always a problem, isn't it? I sincerely hope the levy passes. I'm voting for it, and I call on everyone to do likewise. It'll be great to see the district's buildings and infrastructure improved. On another subject, according to the OSPI report card website, in the 2018-2019 school year, only 51.9% of Jenkins students met the science standard.
Only 33.3% of Jenkins students met the math standard. These are not good numbers. I seem to recall that my opponent was a math teacher here. Hopefully, under Superintendent Perrins, this trend is being reversed. It would help tremendously to commit to making certain that kids are not burdened with certain things, such as diversity, equity, intersectionality, cultural competency, white privilege, white silence, white supremacy, systemic racism. Look, kids do not need to have this progressive crap crowding out their real education. I believe in the 3 R's. No, not the progressive 3 R's, race, race, and race. I'm talking about the real 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. But let's add in civics for good measure. And I don't mean action civics. Do you know what that is? It's being implemented in school districts all over the country. It's where they put the kids on a bus and take them to a Planned Parenthood or Black Lives Matter rally or some other lefty cause. I guarantee you they don't take them to a Second Amendment rally. Anyway, the kids get an A in civics, and the next thing you know, they're going to protests all on their own. What a wonderful world. Action civics, look it up. Here's another issue. In the last election, 27% of voters in Stevens County voted Democrat. 69% voted Republican. So my question is this: does the current makeup of the school board reflect those demographics? No, I don't think it does. But when I get on there, it'll be a big step towards making up that gap, which I call the political party gap. Now, as far as serving on the board is concerned, there's been some chatter around town that I might not be intelligent enough or qualified enough for the job. I just want to say that at the last board meeting I attended, I observed the super secret ritual where the leader says, "All those in favor," and then everyone raises their hand in agreement. I have committed this ritual to memory, and I can say unequivocally that I'll be ready and able to perform it when called upon to do so. So I'm good to go. Folks, I'm asking for your vote. Thank you very much.
All right, and our next candidate for position number 2 for school board, and last but not least.
Yay!
Many of you know me as a hardworking educator. 43 years in the position. I've taught in states, Colorado, Idaho, and Washington. I had the privilege of teaching here for 29 years in mathematics. Many of you here have been in my class, and you know that learning is ultimate, and I did anything I could to increase any student in my room, their math abilities. And I'm very proud of the accomplishments of the students that came from my classroom. I raised 2 children in this community, and both of them are successful. My son is an engineer in Denver, and he got that education in Chewelah. Never had any problem at WSU. My daughter graduated from University of Washington. She didn't have any problems there. She got a great education here. But she came from parents who supported their education and was deeply involved in everything that they were doing. And I think that's imperative that we encourage our parents to do this. So again, I'm Kyra Ralstad, and I'm running for school board position number 2. I am seeking re-election. I filled in for 2 years, and I have made tremendous friendships with the people on the board. I have ultimate respect for Judy Bean, who has led us in very positive directions. The job of school board director should not and cannot be involved with politics. I'm talking about putting our kids first and caring for their needs. Those of you that know me know that I am passionate about kids learning and being successful. To be a good school board director, we must also get input from you, our community. And I believe firmly that I'm approachable, and I will listen, and I take action. We need to assess the needs of our students. We need to continue to improve the areas of our schools that are weak. I know that we need a little work with the math scores from the testing. And the day before they tested our lovely students, they came out in the newspaper that those scores were not going to count. And it was like a party in my classroom. I was like, no, we still have to try. Student success is of primary importance to me. The finances of our school district are the most difficult part of our job, and I pledge to make the most of your tax dollars. I retired in 2019 after 29 years of teaching mathematics here in Chewelah. Then, when the pandemic struck our community, I wanted to help. So I made soap, something I could do. I sold it to raise money, and I raised over $1,400. Went to the businesses, the restaurants, asked them for coupons, and took those coupons to the food bank to give away. I mean, that was one thing I could do while sitting at home trying to be helpful. I heard in Safeway that they weren't going to do the tree of sharing last year. What? We couldn't do that to our children. So I went to the group, the Charity Chicks at Chewelah, which is a crazy name of a bunch of golfers that have a lot of fun together, and we work hard to make sure we give back to the community. So within 2 weeks' time, we had organized, came up with money, and went shopping. And there's some of you there are here tonight that were involved in that. And right in the middle during the pandemic, to ask some retired people and older generation people to work, they went shopping for these kids. And so that was really exciting for me to see us be able to have that for our community. This Charity Chicks organization that we started 5 years ago has provided scholarships to JHS seniors. They gave money to the Snacks for Success backpacks for kids so they can have meals on weekends. We adopt families at Thanksgiving and cook for them and supply them dinner. We also have donated much money to the food bank. I currently serve on the school board as a legislative liaison, and I try to make Olympia aware of our needs of rural schools, including technology, broadband for students, and transportation funding for our school district. I worked with the present board to hire a qualified superintendent. This board did our own search in which I contacted universities to advertise for the position in Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and Alaska. There's a lot of universities in those states, let me tell you. But we wrote to all of them, and we actually saved our tax dollars, our community a lot of tax dollars for that effort. This board is also prioritizing communication so that we get two-way communication, that we can talk to you, find out what your needs are, your students' needs, and bring them back to our school. This board is working hard together to accomplish for our children. I want to work for you to make our schools the best in our area. Your vote will make this possible, and I pledge to work hard to make Chewelah a better place to live. Please vote for me. Thank you.
Once again, we want to thank the school district for letting us have this here, and wanted to say another thank you to all of the candidates for putting yourself out to run for these offices, and thank you for your service to the community. So thank you for that. So the candidates are going to go back, and if you have individual questions for the candidates, you can ask them the questions, and thank you for coming tonight.